Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. My name is Jeremy Derryberry. I'm one of the directors here at Everest. Tonight with me is Linda Hitchcock, our college counselor, and we're here to talk to you about college admissions essentials. These are the things that we think you need to know in order to have a good college admissions experience. We'll spend tonight, about an hour tonight on the presentation, and then we'll follow up with a Q&A afterwards. Many of you have submitted your questions already, so we'll cover those during the Q&A if we haven't built them into the presentation already. If you have a question that comes up during the presentation, please put it into the chat or the Q&A box below, and we'll get to it at the end. We are recording tonight, so tomorrow I will send you the presentation, a link to the video, and all of our supporting materials. Before I turn it over to Linda, I just want to let you know some of the things that we have coming up here at Everest this summer. Oh, went too far. Sorry about that. For test prep, if you haven't already done your diagnostics and you're a rising junior, we still have several weekday and weekend test sessions coming up in July and August that you can sign up for. Now's the best time for your student to come in and try out the SAT and ACT, figure out which is the best test, and then be ready for fall test prep. We also have 1 week summer classes coming in August for both the August 24th SAT and the September 14th ACT. Those run 1 week, 30-hour classes with a practice test at the end. And they're a great value and convenience. Students come in Monday to Friday and meet all day and then knock out their test prep in 1 week, which is really helpful for a lot of kids who have, say, very full fall schedules or sort of not sure what they want to do going into the fall semester. We have, for our rising seniors, college application workshops. I still have 1 seat left in our last week and a couple of seats left in the middle week, but we expect those to sell out pretty quickly. So if you are interested, please get to me sometime in the next few weeks so we can get you signed up. We also have Linda obviously is available for one-on-one counseling. If you'd rather go that route instead, just let me know and we'll get you connected with her. We also do essay development and editing. We know a lot of people come to us for that, that we offer as a separate service. And finally, if you do academic tutoring with us, we have a 15% off for 10 hours of tutoring work. Those hours are good for the summer or for next year, so they don't expire. And it's good if you know that you're going to be having tutoring needs coming up in the year ahead. Go ahead and purchase it now. It's a great value for you. We appreciate you joining us tonight. We hope you find it informative, and I'll turn it over to Linda.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. This is a topic I love to talk about. So you can find that I'll probably ramble sometimes, but it's just a great topic for me. I love what I do. So I have been a college admission counselor for over 30 years. I started out as a college application reader, and I would read applications for Clemson University. And after that, I went into the high school college admissions. I worked at Rockville High School with students that had learning differences, and then I transferred to Wooten, and I was at Wooten for almost 15 years, 20 years. So that's just a little bit about me. So tonight we are just going to kind of go over, what it takes to have a great application, what colleges are we looking for, what, just kind of giving you a big picture of if you've got a student that is going to be a rising senior, where should they be right now? And then if you've got a rising junior, again, where should they be? And to get a big picture of what's coming up for them. So we'll get started here, and let me bring out, since COVID, the college admission has really changed. During COVID, they were test optional, and a lot of schools are remaining test optional. And it's for financial reasons, because when you receive $30,000, $50,000, $60,000, 60,000 applications at $75 or $80 an application, it adds up to quite a bit of money. So, but remember, it's optional. So they still will be looking for test scores. There are many of schools now that COVID is behind us, and students have been in high school for all 4 years. And I understand they still miss some of that, that important class time experience before high school, and colleges certainly understand that. They give an area to explain that on an application if you want to give them more information regarding COVID. So how has that changed? It really did, because colleges had to be test optional. There really wasn't a choice for them, because they couldn't, the kids couldn't take the test. So it's changed because of that. And it's also changed because students can't get to some of the campuses because of the illness. So that's kind of where, it's changed. During the height of the test optional process, colleges were receiving up to 65, 70, 80, some were even in the 90,000 range. And that's an enormous amount of applications to sort through and to look over and to spend time reading. So the average time that a representative will read based on GPA and test scores and an essay and look at their activities, do they read them front to back? Some schools will, some schools won't. But because of receiving over 90,000 applications, a lot of them are put through a computer, and they will come out with, prorated GPA that they're looking for, or the top 10% of the students are looking for. They plug in those test scores and they go on to the next stage of being read. So it really has changed things. And again, this is for schools that are receiving 80, 90,000. It's impossible for an admission staff to read that many applications front to back. And that's how it's changed. So I will tell you, this past year, we have had a drastic change for students that are using, or schools that are now requiring test scores. A lot of them were test optional, but many of them are requiring test scores. Some of the schools are coming in and they're saying, we want test scores for engineering, or we want test scores for biology or for business. So those are things that some programs have now become even more limited, and that's where they're really looking for those test scores. So I encourage every student to take the test. I really do. Even though I have schools that are test optional, remember, it's optional. So you're competing against students that are submitting scores. So when you're competing against students that are submitting scores, you are at a disadvantage. Your child's at a disadvantage if they don't. So that's something to keep in mind. The AI, the first use of AI, they are putting into place. I have a very good friend of mine who is, I still am in contact with him, and he is the director of admissions out of a top tier school. And he said they are implementing software to detect AI. So I will tell you that that is definitely something they are on the lookout for. They will scan that essay and the supplemental essays, and they will scan them for any type of AI, and your child won't even know it. So, but I will tell you that's make sure your child doesn't do it. That's all I can tell you is technology is amazing in what it can do and what you can find when you do something. So, all right. And then the big college picture. Students need to engage with the college because these schools are receiving so many applications. It's important for a student to visit. They can't visit in person. They need to visit online. They need to find out if the college is going to be in the local area, and if they're going to have a presentation at a hotel, or they need to reach out to the admissions representative and talk to them, email them, ask them questions. When I was reading applications and I had never, ever received anything, I never saw this student at any college fair or any type of presentation I made, or when I visited a high school, I never saw this student, and all of a sudden I received an application. That tells me, as an admissions representative, do they really want to come to my school, or is it just on a list, just to have it on a list in case they get in? So how are you proactive? That's very important. So visiting schools again, we can't all go to California or all over the country to visit schools. However, finding other ways to show that demonstrated interest is going to be important. So I will tell you again, it's listed here, 5 to 10 minutes reading, but be able to read that application, and every school tracks it. I don't care if they tell you they don't, they do, they track it. They know how many times the student has logged on to their website. They know when a student receives an email, are they receiving any kind of feedback from that email? If they're not, they call it a ghost application. We'll tell you ghost applications get read less. So I was able to fill the classes with students that did want to come and showed me they wanted to come. So why would I not offer them a spot on, to being admitted versus a student that I've never even seen or heard of before? So how do you control it? It is in your hands. It is in the student's hands, making the right decisions and visiting schools and taking the test and having extracurriculars that are meaningful and that are consistent. So with that, we'll move on. And we'll talk about, again, here are some numbers for you. The increase in 2019 to 23 to 24, you can see applications, and it's on the rise, and students are applying to even more schools. So instead of applying to 10, which was pretty usual before COVID, pre-COVID, I'd say 10 to 12. Now students are needing to apply to probably close to 15. So that's an increase because of just how many applications schools are, receiving the application. So with that, the more applicants that apply, that means it's harder to get in. So the decreased admission rate, so increased selectivity is always there. I think Harvard was at a 3.5%, and there were plenty of them that were, might have been 7% before COVID, and now they're into the 5s and the 4s. So very important for you to realize that it's still extremely competitive, if not more. So this is what was reported through the Common Application. However, the Common Application does not include the California schools at all. It doesn't include some of the Texas schools and some of the Florida schools, because Florida has their own applications for Florida students, and the California system is on their, on their applications. So it's not included in these numbers with the Common App. Again, the more selected, the more the difficulty rate is to get in. So that just to giving you an idea of what, unfortunately, what your student is facing as far as competitive. So which means, the academics, their extracurriculars, their test scores are going to be very important for them to get in. All right, we'll move on to the next one. And we're finding, again, I talked about this, I just, again, when I see a student that has a 4.5 weighted GPA in Montgomery County and they have not taken a test score, my red flags are going to be risen. So they're going to ask, why not? You have obtained straight A's all the way school. Why are you not taking a P test? Why are you not, where are you with the testing, and why not? So if, there are different reasons why students can't take testing, and certainly that is something that can be explained on an application. But, if you were reading an application and you had a student that had taken all very high level classes, received all A's, and never sat for a test or willing to submit a score, that makes it very difficult to judge that transcript, because most students that have a very high GPA will have, a similar ACT or SAT. Now, there are definitely exceptions to that rule. So don't take that to heart to, go to your student and say, you have to have a 36, you have a 4.5. There are definite rules to that, but why they haven't submitted anything is something that they're going to look at. And especially for the limited programs, engineering, business, biology, data science, data computer science. So here are some of the schools that have required them. Brown, Dartmouth, UT Austin is a huge big school. I have a lot of students applying to. UNC is, for some students, the UNC Board of Governors is considering test optional policy for some incoming college students. And again, that's for certain majors. Georgia's are going to use them. Florida, you don't have a choice. You have always had to use them. The California schools are different as far as you don't need to submit them for in-state, but out of state, they still like to STEM. So a lot of the other Ivy Leagues are putting SAT and ACT back in. So I would, if I was a parent and I was a student that was not going to be submitting test scores, I would be asking, are there specific majors that you're looking for test scores? Or how many students did you admit without test scores? I'm not sure they'll give you that information. They kind of will skirt around it and say, we don't have the, the proper numbers. Again, they're not going to point blank answer that question. There are ways for you to find out, but you can look at a college profile. Every high school has a school profile. Every college has a school profile. And on that profile, I'm finding that they will tell you 70% of their students submit scores or etc. So, and again, there's every rule is not set in stone, but it's something to make sure that you understand if they need it. Georgetown requires test scores. There are a lot of them that are now requiring them. So why not take it? Tennessee, big school system. So again, they are coming, I think, even more next year. So if you have a junior, I would be making sure that they understand and just don't take it for granted that they don't have to take them. All right, moving on. Early decision, and this is something that I get asked this question a lot. Does early decision help? Yes, it does. The schools know how many students are coming in. They know how many students they've exceeded from early decision. Therefore, they know that they've committed early. They know how many they need to look for, admit for the rest of their applications, and when they receive applications in January or February. But they are just they are looking for students that are come and committed to that school. So remember, early decision is binding, and we'll go over what that means. But does it matter? Yes, it has mattered. I would say that a lot of students are becoming on the wait list, which means that the students, again, have to go back and probably even try to resubmit. Maybe they're asking for a specific essay. Maybe they're asking for another letter of recommendation. Maybe they're asking the student, are you really willing to come here? They will send out a letter saying, you are on the wait list. Do you really want to stay on the wait list or to withdraw off the wait list? So I'm finding that a lot, that happened this year a lot, more so than I expected. The admission rates at schools vary widely by major. I always talk about Maryland only because many families listening are from Maryland, but Maryland has limited enrollment programs, their communication program, their Smith School of Business, their Clark School of Engineering, their biology program, their psychology program. They're all limited enrollment. And so they know exactly how many they want to offer admission to. And 9 times out of 10, it's the top 10% for their, and that's what they'll tell you. We're looking for the top 10% of the students within their high school. So, other trends, I'm finding a lot of schools, if they are a lot of students this past year and the year before, they may not have gotten into the school of their dreams, so they will do a gap year, or they will, they will go to a, Montgomery College program. They may do an online program, but there is, there's satellite campuses, and then you can move straight in. They call it, they call it admission access. So some schools bring that. This past year, I've seen a lot of schools that will offer a student to study abroad their first year, and then come on campus their sophomore year. So I saw that a lot. But some students are anxious to do that. Some parents are reluctant. So it really is a decision that you have to look at. Will they, sorry, got off a screen there that I need to change. Okay, I'm sorry about that. So this is, you have to just understand the options. And when you visit schools, ask them what it's like to be on a wait list. When would they find out if they come off the wait list? Things like this. Deferred. What does deferred mean? Deferred is if you applied early action and you didn't get in under the early action pool, then you could be deferred. And being deferred means they want to see grades from their first semester. They want to see if they went to college, if they're doing a college class, they want to see those grades. So a deferral is not a no, but I tell students all the time that you just don't know. So some seniors tend to think, my senior grades don't matter. Yes, they do. So they do, because if you're deferred, they want those first semester grades. So as a parent, when you have a senior, tell them this is not the year to goof off, because many of them, and I will say many, have seen deferrals. And that, again, increasing trend from last year. So lots of kids emailed me after December 1st or January 1st saying, I was deferred, what do I do? So there are steps to take once you're deferred. But if you've received all A's all along every year, and now all of a sudden your senior year and you're pulling out C's and B's, that's telling a college that you went through your senior year and just didn't care. So they are looking. So just to keep that in mind. All right. So admissions timetable, let's look at that a little bit for you so you understand where we are. So the 10th grade, good idea to take diagnostic tests to see where they are, take a personality profile to kind of see maybe what career they might like. If you're in an area and you want to go visit a school, certainly go do that. I'm not sure in 10th grade, I would spend tons of time doing school tours because selections might change, but it's a great idea to see what a campus looks like and where they are. Again, summer of 10th grade, volunteering is important. What every student does over the summer is just as important as what they do through their time in high school. So are they sitting home for 8 weeks? Are they working? Are they doing an internship? Are they volunteering? What are they doing? And that's going to be very important especially because you're competing with so many students that are applying. Fall for 11th grade, take the SAT or the ACT, get it finished, get it done. I will say that the schools offer PSAT, depends upon what school you're in Montgomery County. Public schools, they tend to offer it. Private schools sometimes don't. And who knows if they're going to continue. So Montgomery County Public Schools has offered for the last, I'd say, 8 years, be that about that amount. They've always offered a free SAT for students in March. So March of their, junior year. So again, if a if they've already gotten their ACT and their SAT done, they certainly don't need to sit for that test. But if they haven't, they should be sitting for that test. Fall of 11th grade, start looking at a preliminary list. I tell students this preliminary list is not based because you have no test scores, you have no GPA. So you're looking at a GPA from 9th and 10th grade, which doesn't give you the whole picture for admission. So make a preliminary list based on location, size, and type. And we can talk about those as well, but that would be the preliminary list. Once spring comes, once first semester, junior year is over, that's when you really need to start looking at colleges that are going to be safe schools, reach schools, target schools, and really refine that list. And then you start visiting those schools on that list. And whether you do it for, schools that you have to travel to, and you only do that during the winter break or the spring break, that's great. But again, you must have an idea of where your child sits at the end of first semester fall year, because colleges use the GPA from 9th grade, 10th grade, and all of 11th grade. So you and I both know that their transcript will change from the end of 10th grade to the end of junior year. So that's what colleges are looking at. If you are joining us tonight and you have a senior, then their transcript is already in place. They've received grades for their last semester in their junior year. So they have a transcript that you're looking at and a GPA. So you should be basing that final college list in your senior year based on that GPA, the full GPA, and based on test scores, and then base it on what type of school you want, where you want, what major. If you don't know what major, then it's very important where and what type and how large and city or not city, rural, all things to consider. So, but by now, for a senior that's going to be graduating in 2025, all of these things should be done. They shouldn't be walking in. This should be the critical months, the next 2 months. A lot of this done before school starts. So that's where you should be for your junior and your senior year. The fall of their junior year, again, make sure those testings are done before you start filling out your applications. I find that if the students get finished by their summer of their junior year, and really before, honestly, the spring of their junior year, that's what I would target to get finished all that testing. And so that would be the admissions timeline that I tell parents. Get that testing done before you finish your junior year. Don't walk into your senior year thinking, oh my gosh, now I have to take all these tests. So in the fall of your senior year, obviously you're filling out applications, you're going to college meetings at their high school if they offer them. If not, you can still do visits, close by visits. Had a student the other day that went to Boston for 1 day and did 3 college visits in 1 day. That's a lot, but they wanted to get it done. I call it August. First is when the common application, which the common application is for 75% of the schools in the United States. So that's an application that, when I teach workshop, that's the application that the students work on. I help them with others, the Georgetown app, and there's other applications that I certainly help the students with. But during the workshop, we get that common application completely finished, including their essays. So by fall, by November 1st, and that is the timeline, by November 1st, for early action deadlines, I tell students need to be done on October 15th. essays done, application done, letters of recommendation taken care of, requesting transcripts, all of that needs to be done by October 15th. You know, give them a breather. When I teach my class, I make sure these kids know, don't wait till October 31st to submit your applications. You don't know, something might happen to your computer. You know, they might crash. You just don't know. I saw that happen a few years ago. It was for the Common App had to extend their deadlines. The schools had to extend. So I make it a target when I teach the class October 15th. Does everybody follow my directions? No, but you know, we all know how that goes with teenagers. So, but it eliminates stress if they can get all this done, so they don't spend all of holidays working on college applications. So that's the timeline for sophomores, juniors, and seniors. A little bit more for the senior. There are things to do in the spring, that type of thing. So courses, activities, again, colleges are looking at, they're looking at that transcript 9, 10, 11. They're looking at the classes that they are taking in their senior year. So again, very important. AP versus honors or regular. I will tell you that there are an enormous amount of schools in Montgomery County that don't have a lot of classes that are regular. So PE is still regular. Some of the art classes are still regular, but they now even have honors health. And so, you know, it just depends upon what they're taking. But honors obviously is recommended, but some students can't, and that's explainable. So, you know, I have 2 children. They both had learning differences. They both were not in AP and honors classes all the way through high school. So, you know, it doesn't mean that, but if you're asking for a difference between AP, honors, and regular, colleges want to see the progression in a transcript. So if they've started out in all honors classes in their 9th grade year, their freshman year, and they've never taken an AP and they received straight A's, then they should be challenging themselves in their sophomore year to take an AP. And again, during sophomore year, they're coming out with all straight A's. Then, you know, during their junior year, let's take 3 or 4 APs. Do you have to take every class AP? No. Is it important to take every AP exam and every AP class? It really depends upon the student, if they can handle it. But you really don't want to encourage a student to take an AP class and have them receive a B or lower. So they're looking for A's and B's. A student that's in an AP class and they're receiving a C, they probably should have stuck with the honors class instead of trying the AP. I find that happens when they try to do too many. You know, they're taking English and social studies and sciences and math, and they're taking 5 APs, and one of them ends up being a C in their junior year. Sometimes, not always, but sometimes it happens. Well, next year they shouldn't be taking, you know, a higher level class. They should probably opt for an honors, especially if they received a C in something. So, and the same thing with a sophomore going into their junior year. If they're receiving all B's in honors classes, then I certainly wouldn't be putting my child in every class for an AP, because the honors class and they're receiving B's, AP double the work. So to be strapped with 4 APs in your junior year when you didn't receive A's in your honors classes is pushing you, in my opinion, personal opinion, a little hard. So again, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for high level classes, high level grades. Okay. Courses, engineering. I will tell you, engineering students, if your child wants an engineering, if the school has Project Lead the Way, they probably should be in it. If they are going to a magnet school and they want the, you know, the sciences or robotics or computer and go to magnet school, then they should be taking those magnet classes. If they are, you know, international affairs, they probably should and will I, as a college admission person, would be looking for 4 years of language in high school if you wanted to be, in a foreign language major. Some schools do require it. Tufts is one of them, that they do require so many foreign language subjects. The South Carolina and Georgia schools require 3 years of lab science. 3 years. So that's, that's a lab science. So you need to make sure that the student has that. So it just it depends, but engineering students, Virginia, Maryland, Georgia Tech, Purdue, a lot of Michigan looking for students that have taken AP Physics and not AP Physics 1. They're looking for AP Physics Mechanical. They're looking for AP Physics Molecular. They're looking for high-level Physics C, and that's what they want, because if a student does very well, and they're also looking for the higher level math, because they need to know that they're ready to walk into an engineering program as a freshman in college. And it pass those classes and you do well, they have a very good idea that you're ready. So again, I would be researching that to find out if your child is wanting to go into music, theater, they all dance. A lot of them require auditions. So again, what does that mean? Your child's going to be going on a lot of audition interviews and auditions. So that's even more time consuming for a student, because you have to set up all of those, the auditions. Same thing with a student that's going into architecture or to design or any type of art, and the school requires a portfolio. Once again, time consuming for the student, and it would be a shame if they decided they wanted to apply to a school and then find out, oh gosh, I have to have a portfolio and it's not done. So those are the things that you should research in advance. All right, let's keep going. And I didn't really talk about activities, so I will kind of catch up with that. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. So again, which test is best? The only way you're going to find out which test is best is take them both. Some students are wonderful with taking an ACT test. It's knowledge-based. It's, to me, it has 4 sections. It's easier to get a super score, but it's a big difference in content and format. The SAT, now they have a digital SAT, so again, very different format. Super score on subjects, math and English, language, and those don't super score. Really, you have to be pretty strong on both to get a good super score. And then again, do you want to go test optional? And those are, if you want to go test optional or shooting for the stars, you need to talk to somebody and see exactly, is that feasible? So, but a testing plan is, if you have a rising senior in place and graduating in 2020, hopefully they have done this. So if not, then we need to talk and get them caught up. All right, let's talk about extracurriculars, okay? Because they build credentials. To tell you one thing right away, it's commitment, long-term commitment. Have they been a Girl Scout? Have they been a Boy Scout? Are they still that? Have they played baseball since they were 5? Have they been in gymnastics for a long time? What have they done? Have they done a club at school? Are they doing the club at school for 4 years? Have they stayed in it? Are they committed to it? Do they have a leadership role in it, or they just go? Those are the things that colleges are looking for. The application says, have you done this activity 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th? They ask you. If you're only doing it for 1 year, how committed are you? It does happen, and your interests change. But if every single application and your extracurricular is something that you did in you did it only for 1 year, then I'm going to ask, did you only do that just to get into college, or are you really interested in it? And it's not extracurriculars at school. I have a lot of parents that say, well, they don't do a lot of, but they do a lot outside of school. What are they involved in their neighborhood? Are they on a traveling team for a specific sport? Do they belong to a church or a synagogue or, a mosque or whatever they belong to that they're very involved in? And that makes a big difference, because some student takes up an enormous amount of time. And, they don't have time to go to something every day, or tennis. And some of those sports are year-round sports, and the students just can't attend a meeting or go to everything. So I try to tell students it's not a matter of, yes, it's great if you are in a leadership role, but there are plenty of roles that a student can do in a club. They can be a committee chair. They can be, co-chairing. There's a lot of things that they can do, not just president or vice president or secretary or treasurer. So jobs during the summer, jobs. What does that say to a college? You can get up, get to work, and stay at work and do it. It's a lot of responsibility for a student to have a job. Mom and dad are not picking them up and putting them in the job and saying, okay, now let's do it together. These students have a job and they make money, and absolutely a college is going to look at that and say, wonderful. Are they looking at an internship? Sure, absolutely. Are they looking at an internship during school time? It depends upon what the internship is. I get that question a lot. So if the internship is going to be 5 days a week and it's at a specific place and they're doing research or they're doing something, wonderful. They need to talk about it in their application. If they don't know that what their internship is by the time the fall comes, then I always get a little concerned, because that kind of means like you may not be doing anything for the first month that you're in your senior year. And again, colleges are going to look at those grades. And some schools, some high schools, I'm finding if you don't have an internship set up, you've signed up for an internship, but you don't have it set up on the first day of school that you come in and you're ready for that internship, you will fail the class, because they have to give you a grade. So something to check with the high schools about, because I'm seeing a shift in that direction, because the schools are saying you need to get that internship. And is the internship working at, Papa John's? Well, that's not an internship, maybe not unless you're going into management, but it's a job. So they don't put job down on an application, they put internship. So again, all of that makes it very important. But doing an internship over a summer, between 10th and 11th, between 9th or 10th, or 10th or 11th, or 11th or 12th, absolutely. During an internship over a weekend, or doing it after school, again, do your internship 1 day a week. Yes. Do they make a difference? Yes, if it's in the field that you're interested in. So, that again, some colleges offer summer programs for students. Is it in a field of interest? Are you taking a class on animal science, or again, digital art, or what are you doing for that, that program? But there's a lot of them out there. A lot of students do them. Some of them are extremely expensive, so check them out. A nice time to check them out would be the spring of your child's junior year. You'd certainly look at them in the fall of your junior year, but I find the spring of the junior year, there's more information about them, and then about a career interest that a student knows they really want to pursue. Summer classes to make up a poor grade. This is going to be different school to school. There are no AP classes to take over the summer. You can't make up an AP school, class. So if they in a class, they're going to need to explain it on their app, because you can't take it over. So, but if you took an honors algebra and you failed it and you want to raise that grade up, take it over the summer and get that better grade. So would I like you on a transcript? No. So that's just, you have to explain it. You have to explain what happened. And again, it does happen. I have a lot of students that this happens to. My own daughter had to explain why she received a D. So, and I see them getting into college. You know, again, I don't want to scare you, but I also need the students and the parents to understand what's going on, you know, what the trends are, and how to help your student if they are failing. So, all right, character building, giving back to your community. That is, colleges call it grit. So many parents know what grit means. That's what they're looking for. They're looking for a student that has committed to something, has that grit, has passion about, and is committed themselves. That's grit. That's what they're looking for. So, all right. College types. Let's look at these for a minute. And then that's what I said. If you have a student that's a sophomore or a junior, this is something, and even a senior, if they haven't made up their mind and they don't know. I love liberal arts schools. I try to tell all parents to look at them. I did a poll a few months ago. 61% of the CEOs in the country went to a liberal arts school. Students will take a science, English, and a social studies and a math all 4 years. A liberal arts college tends to be very well-rounded. The student comes out with a well-rounded education. I would say 95% of the liberal arts schools, the students come in, and if they know what major they're in, they immediately get into that major and start working on their credits for that major. In a large university, they come in, they take their, you know, their 2 years of their prerequisites, they get them out of the way, and then they move into a more specific class for that major. So there's a big difference in that. There are some big universities that offer liberal arts colleges at their school. So again, the liberal arts, I find it's really good for students that really want to study law or math or English. It just depends upon the school. Again, you know, the liberal arts school that my daughter went to was a very big biology school. So it definitely depends. I'd say the liberal arts schools are smaller than the universities. You know, it just, again, really depends upon what your student wants. As a parent, if you're joining me as a parent, don't, you know, they're in schools, and let's just say they're, you know, at Wooten High School. Wooten High School has 2,200 students. I assure you, if I goes to Wooten, they don't know 2,200 kids. So when they think about a high school or a college, and they say, I don't want to go anything less than, or I don't want to go to something like my high school. Well, do you know everybody? And that's what I try to tell kids is 2,200 kids on a college campus is very different than 2,200 kids on a high school campus. So I like to tell parents, take them to a liberal arts. Never know, take them to a huge university where, you know, 40,000 kids are there, and, you know, the dorms are, you know, there's shortage of dorm rooms, and they'd have to live in apartments. You know, these are all things to take into consideration when you're looking at colleges. So whether it's a liberal arts, a university, specific school at that university, you know, if it's, you know, they have schools broken up into different areas, is that important to your child? Sports, you know, all of those things are, and clubs are important for kids. You know, if they've been, you know, riding a horse since they were 10, and they go to a college that is nowhere near any type of riding facilities, well, that, you know, it might be lonely for a student or whatever, but something to look at are clubs as well. You know, rock climbing, you name it. What do they have? That's important. The community college are always a option. And nowadays, with the price of schools, you can go to Montgomery College if you're in that area, but you can go to a 2-year school, get all of your prerequisites done, out of the way, without debt, and then walk into a big university or a liberal arts school and start taking your classes for your major, and it saves you an enormous amount of money. Montgomery College has some really strong programs with University of Maryland system, and they're direct admit, is what they call it. And community schools that do. So if you're to, applies to, I'll just use Florida, for example, University of Florida, and they don't get into Florida, but they're offered a community college and then a direct admit into the University of Florida, and your child will not be in the other school except the university, then that's an option. So are less expensive. Look, at the end of the day, where they graduate from is what it says on their diploma. So it doesn't say, well, I earned my associate's degree at Montgomery College and I went to Maryland and I have a bachelor's. They're not getting 2 degrees, they're getting 1. So at the end of the day, that's what diploma really counts. So just to go there. Specialized, again, art schools, religious affiliated schools, Boston College, Notre Dame, schools in California. There are a lot of schools that are Jesuit schools, St. John's. I could sit here and name many of them. But so if that's something that is important to you as a family or important to your student, then great. They're required to take religious classes. So if that's something they don't want, then I would not look at any of the religion schools that are out there, because it's going to be mandatory for them to take it. Specialized schools within schools. So like, again, there's an agricultural school which is specialized at University of Maryland or at Virginia Tech, and it's a specialized program within the big school. There are vocational schools that students can go to and have a career when they walk out, like being a chef, going into hospitality, going into being a mechanic, a specialized mechanic. I'm just going into, and a lot of people think Georgia Tech is only a tech school. Well, it's not, but it definitely has a vocational part of it as well. So there are many VOTech schools, excellent schools. There's something else called a co-op school, which I failed to tell Jeremy to add to these college types, but I'm hearing it more and more. So the co-op schools, the students will go to school their freshman year, and they'll be in the school for their full year. Starting in their sophomore year, they will go to school at the campus location for their one full semester, working in the field. So they're actually hands-on working in the field. And it flip-flops. They can do a whole year of vocational and a whole year of at the school location, but it's called co-op. 95% of those co-ops that the students get are paid jobs and paid co-ops. So it helps them pay the tuition at the school they're going to go to. So if that's something you're looking for as well, I can give you plenty of them, or look for co-op programs. It is a great opportunity, especially for students that really are hands-on learners. And I assure you, when you go to a co-op school and you do really well and an internship, those kids walk out with jobs right away. They have job offers sitting in their hands before they even cross the stage in their senior year. So sometimes it's a really great option for students that know exactly what they want to do. All right, school factors to consider. I was talking to a family today. So mom, dad, number one, primary, absolutely, you must have an affordability calculator, knowing what your child's going to be applying to. Top tier schools are expensive, 75, 80,000. I just saw a new one for 82. That's a lot of money for 4 years of an education. If you are not willing to pay that $82,000 a year, then please don't have your child apply, because it's an enormous amount of work. You're talking about an application, you're talking about extra essays, you're talking about interviews, you're talking about visiting, you're talking about your student opening up emails and conversing back and forth with the colleges. It's a lot of work, a lot. And then they apply, they get in, and then mom or dad are saying, oh, I didn't realize it was that expensive. I'm sorry, sweetheart, you can't go. So I've seen it happen, and it makes me extremely sad when it does, just because, it's, why do all of that work when it's out of the price range? It's like, going and buying a car for $80,000, but that it would take you 20 years to pay off that car, and you have to only go to certain mechanics, and factor cost is a number one. You have to know what it costs. How do you find that out? We can tell you, but number one, that's what you need to do. Every school financial aid tab on their school website, look at how much it is, look, do they offer scholarships, how do they help you? There's lots of loans out there if parents want to take a loan, if a student wants to take a loan. Just remember, after 4 years, those loans have to be repaid. The secondary thing to look for, and I alluded to this earlier, is the type of school: university, liberal, vocational, co-op, community school. So the type, the size, again, do you want a school larger than your high school, but do you want 40,000 students, where you're sitting in classes with 300 and 400 in a lecture room, and those classes are not taught by a professor, they're taught by an adjunct professor, or they're taught by a PA, it just went out of my head. I'm just so sorry, I apologize, but a professor assistant, and are they taught by that? So that will make a big difference in the kind of education your student has. When are they going to actually be in either a lab or a class with the actual professor that wrote the curriculum for that class? So that's something to think about. Location. Does your child want to go, thousands of miles away from home? Do you understand that you're going to be flying them back? Do you understand that during, Thanksgiving and the holiday, you need to understand, well, we need to get them on an airplane. So that's additional cost to factor in for their education. So location has a lot to do with it. Do you want to be within driving distance? Does it matter? And the same thing doesn't matter for the student. Do they want to sleep in their own bed once a month, or do they want to come home and visit their dog, or whatever the case is? Location, I find, is just as important as size. And again, distance, where they want to go. Do they want to be in a city? Do they want to go to NYU, where their dorm room, they're sleeping and they're going to be hearing ambulances and horns, and they're going to be hearing a lot of, they're constantly going to be in motion. Do they want that? Do they want a campus that has no campus? NYU has no campus whatsoever. Is that what they're looking for? Do they want to be in a small town, a really cute campus town, where the main thing at that town is the school and everything revolves around that school? Is that what they're looking for? Or are they looking for a school like, well, they're close enough to the city, but they're not in the city, so there's great public transportation, so there's plenty of things to do. Those are important things, because, and again, location as far as weather. Just to kind of tell you a little bit, and I'm going to wrap up here in a few minutes, but I had a student that applied to every school that was cold: Boston and Syracuse and Binghamton. Every single school was cold. So when I sat down with her list, I said, oh, you must like cold weather. You ski? Do you do this? It was just, making conversation. She said, I hate the cold weather. And I said, then you better go back and revise this list, because every one of your schools is going to have cold weather. You're going to be wearing mittens and boots, and a heavy coat to class, because you're going to be in cold weather. So things to consider, again, all majors. Do they have the major you want? I will tell you almost every college I've ever visited, ever in my entire life, and that's been a lot, always offer business. There isn't a school out there that doesn't offer business. So, but if they want a specific major, that's again what you want to look for. So all of those factors come in, and when you're sitting down making a list, you'll have to look at all of these things and make that list that's going to be appropriate for your child. Okay. And talking about a list, have a well-balanced list. Some high schools call it a reach school, a target school, and a safety school. We tend to call it an unlikely school, a possible school, and probably school. So probably you're going to get in, that's a safety school. I really encourage students when I meet with them, and if they're in my class, you must have four schools on your list that you absolutely love, that you would go to if you're admitted. Because why have a safety school on your list? You've spent the time applying, but you're not going to go. Okay, I'm going to get in, but I'm not going. My goddaughter, I am not going to that school. I made her apply. She was like, she didn't even really fill out the application very well. She said, I'm not going. I'm not going. So I finally said, forget it. Let's just not apply. This is a waste of money and a waste of time. So, but make sure they have a good balanced list. Right now, the average school list, again, depending upon every student's a little different, but if you're asking me on the average, I say between 12 to 15. It used to be 10 to 12 because of the large amount of applications, the possibility that your child is not going to apply with a college, or excuse me, with a test score, again, makes it very difficult to gauge if it's a safe school, a target, or a reach. So I like to tell students must have 4 safety probable schools on that list. I like to have, again, another 4 to 5 that they are within the range, their credentials, their grades, their GPA, what kind of demonstrated interest they have shown to that school, their scores, all of the other things that go into an application. They're pretty likely to get in. Do they have legacy? Some schools really look at legacy, some schools don't at all. So that's kind of where you can get some help with some of these schools. You certainly don't have to use a college counselor, but do your homework to find out how, when you go to colleges on a college visit, what to ask. Does legacy make a difference? How, what's your top 5% you look at when you're looking at a college application? So again, this is a possible list, 4 to 5. That gives you anywhere between 10 schools already. Unlikely schools, and I talked about this again. The admit rate is very low for a lot of these schools. Do I want to spend an enormous amount of time if I have a weighted GPA of a 3.8 and the average student that they're taking at their school is a 4.5? How do you find out that information? Naviance will give you that's a great tool that every Montgomery County Public High School must have. So Naviance is a great one. There are other ways to find out what their average ACT. Again, every college has a profile. So on that profile, it will tell you. If you go up to an admissions rep and say, hey, what was your average GPA that you admitted last year? A lot of them won't tell you. They'll just say, well, the top 20%. Again, the top 20% at one school is going to be different than the top 20% at another school. So that's why I said your student is looked at and evaluated in the content of what that high school offers and what that high school does. So a magnet school is going to be very different than, a regular high school without magnet. An IB school with IB classes is going to be very different than, a regular school, that an AP school. So again, these are all factors that are considered when colleges are looking at an application when you're looking at the very large reach goals, and yes, is it great to put your application in and say, well, I'm shooting for the stars? Great, but don't an application you're shooting for the stars. The other thing that happens is, quite honestly, your child gets repeated no's. It's depressing. Again, not only is it depressing for the student, but it's depressing for the parents, because now they have spent $100 on that application. The application comes in and they don't get in. You have a very disappointed child. You're disappointed. It's just something to avoid if you can. So that's just my take on that. Obviously, it's parents' decision and student decision at the end of the day. I just like to make sure that families know that you should have a well-balanced college list. Okay, college visits, and we'll quickly get through this. College visits are important. As the slide says, spend time on that campus before spending that much money. Make sure that child likes it. The priority, make that college list based on major activities, all of those things. Location. But college visits are important. How do you know what it looks like without going to see it? If you can't go to see it, then again, do a virtual tour, do something, because find out, are they visiting a neighborhood hotel? What do they do? Talk to somebody, talk to a student, if they have a friend that goes to that school, have the friend take pictures or tell the student what it is. But demonstrated interest to a college goes a long way. And as the slide says, before spending an enormous amount of money, make sure they like it. And before spending time filling out the application, doing the essay, and doing, the financial forms and all the other things that take into consideration, and they apply to a school and they have never seen it, but now all of a sudden they've gotten in and now they need to go. Schools are looking at that. I had a young man last year who never went to see a school, and it impacted his applications, I will tell you. So when I kept trying to tell the parents, how do you know if he's going to like the school? And they were like, well, all his friends go there. Well, that's wonderful. I'm glad all his friends go there, but he showed no interest in seeing that campus, and they knew it. So, as a reader of an application, I want to know what you know about my school and have you been there? So college visits are important. You can't get there. Every school in Montgomery County, private or public, they have college counselors that are coming to their school, and they do a 45-minute presentation. Make sure your student knows when they're coming to their high school. Sign up for that visit and see it. When I worked at Wooten, our seniors were allowed to attend 10 college visits during their senior year, and they were not penalized by the teacher for not taking a test. Of course, they had to make it up, but that's something that they should be talking to their counselor about, and finding out, how do we know what colleges are coming in to visit our high school, and how do I sign up? So, because again, can you get to California? May not, but at least you have showed that college that you are willing to come to their visit during a class time and sit and listen to what they have. So, college visits are important. All right, application types, and we will start wrapping up. As just said, I would say more and more and more common application is used. Coalition is rapidly changing or fading out. So I really always stick with the common application and the state systems, as I explained, California. So that's let me explain the common application just for a minute, because I get this a lot. So the common application is one application asking for your parent information, where the parents went to college, what their students' grades are, what classes they're taking their senior year, what activities they've done, what honors they've earned. Those are all the types of questions that are on the common application. So that is one part of it. And of course, the short story essay is on there. So every student is going to do an essay, either a short one on a college application. California has 4 questions that are 250 words each. Georgetown has, I don't even know, I think they have 3 and one of them 600 words. So they're different, but for the Common Application, there is one short story a student will pick, a prompt, and they will write the essay for it. It's 650 words. It's important to do well on that. In addition to filling out that that Common Application was accepted by over 1,000 schools. Each school has their individual application that is attached to the Common App. So when they sit down, a student sits down and they do the Common Application, they finish it. They're not done yet, because then they add the school that they're applying to and they complete that individual application. Do they take long? Usually not. They're usually, again, asking what major the student is applying for. Are they submitting test scores? Have they visited the school? If they have, when? They're short questions, but that's where the supplemental essays come in. And a lot of supplemental essays are not available until August 1st. So to do them now, again, some schools have them up, but many do not. I can tell you Chicago doesn't. They change it every year. California schools don't have it up. So there is the component of the Common App and there's the component of the individual application. Both of them are submitted through one platform, and one platform is the Common App. So you attach them together and you submit it to the school. So the coalition application works the similar way. However, again, I think I used the coalition last year one time and I helped, I don't know, 200 students. So, one time. So, all right, admission decisions, single choice early means they're mostly private schools that use this. Some schools call it restrictive early action. You can only pick one school as your single choice and you apply early action. So what does that mean? You can't apply to any other school that is early action, that restrictive early action. So they're limiting you. They're saying, great, I'm glad you're applying early action to us, but you can't apply any other school except state schools under early action. Okay, little difficult to understand, but if you read the information on their application, Notre Dame is early action, Vanderbilt is single choice early action, Stanford, there are many of them out there. You just need to understand what it means. And they do know. So kids are like, yeah, well, I'm just going to apply to 3 single or choice early action schools. Believe me, somehow they know. I haven't figured that one out quite yet, but they do know. So that's something to keep in mind. Early action, majority of them, almost every one of them are early action is November 1st. There are early actions, Florida schools, October 15th. There are plenty of schools that are October 15th. There are lots of schools that are December 1st, but anywhere between October 15th to December 1st, that's going to be early action. You submit it early, you tend to get your answer earlier. And like Maryland, you submit by November 1st, you're not going to hear until the end of January. But some schools, you apply early action by November 1st or October 15th, and you're going to hear right around the holiday, right before the end of the year. Early decision 1, binding. Use as a parent signs a contract, the student signs a contract, and the counselor signs a contract. And why is that important? Because once you sign a contract, it says there that if you are accepted, you are to withdraw every application that you submitted. So it is, you can't say, well, I'm just going to wait until I hear back from some other school. You can't. They won't let you. It's a binding contract. So that's why it asks for 3 different signatures. I tell families, you better love it. You better love it, love it, love it, no matter what. And it doesn't matter how much money it costs or if they get any kind of scholarship. You better love it. And that's early decision 1. And those are November 1st. And then there's early decision 2. So a lot of students, if they don't get into a school early decision 1, they will move in and choose another school for early decision 2. Once you've been denied from a school early decision, you can't apply again. It's one time and you can't apply again. Why do schools have early decision 1 and 2? Just exactly that reason, because some students get denied from an early decision school and they have a backup plan for early decision 2. It also happens when you find that you have fallen in love with the school and the November 1st early decision has come and gone, and you really realize that I love the school. I really do. This is where I want to go, mom and dad, and I want to apply early decision 2. Then that application is most of them are due January 1st, January 15th. There are some schools that never offer early decision. A lot of the universities will never offer it. Maryland doesn't, Michigan doesn't. There's plenty of them that do not offer early decision if they are a big, large university. Priority, Clemson used to be a priority school. Now they've changed it and they went to early action. Priority means that they are going to evaluate your child for a scholarship under priority admission. So they get looked at first for those scholarships. So that's priority. It's to the student's advantage if they have priority to fill it out. Rolling admissions means once you submit that application, within 6 to 8 weeks, you're going to get an answer back. And I say 6 to 8 weeks, that's when they're in their heavy time of looking at applications. I had students last year that I worked with. They filled out applications and submitted them in September, and they were admitted October 1st. So some rolling admission schools come out very early, get it in, get it out. Some don't. So, but that's a rolling admission. Some schools last year, I found that they were still having rolling admissions in April. So for the kids that got denied from some of the schools they really wanted to go to, then they had a backup plan and they actually had rolling admissions before April 15th. So, which is kind of unheard of, but I've seen it happen. Okay, so important dates. August 1, common application opens. If your student did the common application before August 1st, I will tell you that some of the information will not roll over. So they shut it down to get ready for for 2025 students. So some of that information will not carry over. And they shut it down really probably about July 25th. So between July 25th and August 1st, you can't even get into the application whatsoever. So August 1st is when the applications open and when the individual applications open for every school. October 15th, first ED decisions, November 1st, priority, early action, and most early decision deadlines are November 1st. Or December 1st, just kind of depends. And then January 1st are most we call regular decisions. And I'd say January 1st, January 15th. There are not too many that are February. There are few, but the majority, I'd say 60, 70% of them are going to be January 1st. Okay, what do colleges look for? So as we talked about, they're going to look at that transcript. Number 1, they're looking at the classes, what they're taking, the course rigor, they're looking at the grades, they're looking at the test scores, but GPA is number 1. They're looking at test scores, they're looking at honors and awards. Those are the most important things that they pick up that application, they're reading that first. Their activities, especially if their activities have to do with something within that major, they're really going to highlight that. If they are playing a sport and they played it since they were 6, then they're going to look at that longevity. But activities, as far as the application goes, are they important? Yes. Are they number 1? No. So if your child has tons of activities and a lower GPA, will that help them get in? No. Honestly, no. Their GPA is what they're looking for, because they want to know they went through high school, they did well in high school, and they are ready, their course rigor and their grades are ready to move into college. Activities are wonderful, but they're not going to college just for activities. So you could have 50 of them and it won't matter. That's what they're looking for. Essays can break or make an application. They really can. So they're important. You don't just want to slide through them. They're important. They will read them. And again, break it or make it. I have found that kids that are, may not have the highest test score and may not have the activities, but they write an excellent essay. It will help them. Recommendations also just really truly depends upon the college, but they ask for them. It's mandatory for most schools to receive a high school counselor recommendation because they want to know truthfully what that student has done. They want to hear from a counselor. I will tell you, all the selective schools absolutely read those recommendation letters. So an important piece. But number one, GPA. All right, finances, scholarships. I'm not going to dwell on this because I could talk about finances and scholarships for an entire hour. But how do you determine it? You go to the federal student aid estimator or use through the federal government, or use the college, the net price calculator. And I talked about that before. The colleges require the FAFSA format, which is a new format, which again, can reach out to me or Jeremy, or, if you need help with that or need to understand it. But there's a lot of information on the government website regarding FAFSA, and only go to the government website because that's where the information is accurate. There's another form that private schools, some universities use it, called a CSS profile. I will tell you that CSS profile is very detailed. It's about 300 questions. It'll take you a couple hours to do. There are deadlines for those. So if your child is applying to a school for early decision and they require that CSS profile, there's a deadline for that as well. So they will not evaluate a student without that CSS profile. So if they're applying early decision and that school requires it, they're going to require the CSS profile, which parents have to fill out. I can't imagine your child is going to know everything about your annuities and your trust and your stocks or your 401s or your 529s or any of that. So that's a form for a parent to complete. So that's, required forms. There they are. How to determine net price calculator is where I tell families to go. There are scholarship types. There are search engines to find them. There are some schools that will put their different scholarship types on their website. A lot of them, if they're through the college, they'll want a separate essay for them. Just really depends upon the school. There's a lot of military ROTC and their full rides. If that's the area that your child's going to, it's a specific application for that. There are a lot of companies that offer scholarships. There are majors that offer them. They're out there. When I teach my workshop class, I walk through them and show students where to go. So, and make sure they understand that there are separate application scholarships. So are they available? Yes. Or some of them, yes, very difficult to get. But not every school offers merit scholarships, so you cannot count on them. This is like, I tell the kids in my class, it's like winning the lottery. There's no guarantee that your child is going to get a scholarship. So, but they're there. So absolutely, it's possible for students to complete. And again, we could do this all night and I could sit and tell you about them. But if you have a question regarding it, you can email me. I'm happy to answer or throw you in the right direction. All right, resources. As Jeremy said, we are going to send this out at the end. These are some of the excellent resources that are available. Common data set, I did not talk about that, but every college has what they call a common data set, and it basically tells them how many majors, what are their strong majors, how many professors do they have, how much money they have, how much they pay their professors, you name it, it's on there. It will tell you what their average GPA is for a student that was admitted the year before. It will tell you what the average SAT or ACT, it will tell you how many kids submitted test scores. It tells you, what was the student's average GPA, or was it in the top 10% of the high school? They will tell you. So it's a great resource. You have to know how to read it. It's probably, some of them are 20 pages long, so you have to know what you're looking for, but every school does have it. I find the college scorecard extremely helpful, extremely, especially for retention rate and for the amount of students that graduate in 4 years. So there are many, many, many students going to large universities that cannot graduate in 4 years because they can't get all the classes that they need, not unless they go over the summer. So if they don't go over the summer, the chances are they're probably going to be there a 5th year, or they didn't walk in with a lot of AP credits, or whatever the case may be. But I like the college scorecard. But these are some of them. There's some of the resources that are available, and everybody asks me, well, what's the big secret of getting in? There isn't any. there is no secret. There were no secrets when I read applications for Clemson. It was when we evaluate applications, every school does it differently. Again, the biggest thing they're looking for is a GPA. Filling out the applications truthfully, being forthcoming with a college when you visit, knowing what you want, starting early, getting these things. That's the biggest secret of all, starting early, getting these things done and taken care of. It eliminates stress for your child. It eliminates stress for mom and dad and the grandparents and the younger children. It's just very important to get these applications done and out of the way. It just is working. And I find when the kids get into their senior year and they realize that this is not a year to mess around with, they have to go in and actually do their work. And they're filling out applications. And if they're busy with sports, and if they're busy with theater, or whatever it is that they're, or they have a job every day after school, they have very limited time to start working on these applications. So, August 1st to, before school, and you and I both know in Montgomery County public schools start, I think, what is it, October or August, like 25th or something. So, there's a short time span, and you've got the month of July. So start brainstorming ideas about essays. And again, remember, they're short stories. Look at those. The prompts are out for the Common Application. The prompts are not out for individual schools. Here's the other thing, and I try to tell parents this. And again, if you're talking to a parent of a senior, they may not think this is really fun. However, if you're going on college trips between now and August, try to have a little fun in it. Check out the town, go to a great restaurant, buy a t-shirt, look around, have a good time with it. I enjoyed taking my daughter, and there were many times we fought, but many more times that we had a great time, and we remember them. In fact, we still talk about them, and it was a long time ago when my daughter went to school. So have a good time. Try to eliminate some of that stress by starting early, and just understand that it's out of their students' control. You submit the application, you've done the best that you could possibly do, and it is a waiting game, and there is no way that other than waiting and saying, I put forth my best effort for every application, and there's no way to predict the future. So just have them do the best they can, have them pick safety schools. I cannot express that enough. So important. And that's it for my portion of this. Jeremy, do we have questions? Did I answer all the questions that were asked in the beginning? I'm just not sure I did, but let me look. How many?
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Jeremy. I'm so sorry.
I was going to say, one question we got that we didn't cover is, how do you make it affordable to go to college and grad school? Are there any tips you might give people? things to
How
consider.
do I make it affordable to go to college and grad school? I'm sorry, is that what it
Yes.
was?
Mhm.
Okay. Here's some information. I would go to a school that obviously is not going to put you in debt for their undergrad. I do think starting at a community college is always an option. The kids don't want to hear it, but if you know that they're going to med school afterwards and you present it to your child and you say, great, I'll pay for your undergrad, you're paying for your med school. And you tell them, gee, you know, if you went to 2 years at a community school and got, you know, all the prerequisites out of the way, and then you went to finished up at Maryland or where you want to finish, then I have more money to help you with grad school. So that's a parent decision or discussion. There are scholarships there for grad school. The other thing that I would tell families, and I've seen this happen over and over again, have your student work with a professor. I had a student that, you know, worked with a professor when they were in their junior and senior year in college. That professor gave them a recommendation to a school. They get into that grad school, and then they were a teaching assistant for that grad school. Teaching assistants, you know, they can either take a salary or they can take classes, you know, so they can take it off of their tuition bill. So every school is a little different for teaching assistants, but that's what I would do. The other thing that students can do is be a resident advisor or a dorm, you know, again, losing my train of thought. But, you know, they are an advisor for a dorm. They get their room and board free if they are a dorm. And every school calls them something different. Some call them a resident counselor. They just all call them something different. But that's another way to save money. The other way to save money is scholarships for when they get there. So that is something that your kids will overlook. When I walk around to colleges, I always look at the bulletin boards outside of an academic department, and I always see, you know, $5,000 scholarship awarded to students in the computer program, science program that have a 4.0 or whatever. And their endowments offered to that college, but only for college students at that school. So I tell them, okay, great, your applications are done. Yes, you've gotten some merit scholarship. There's a lot of money that is on the table that you have not taken advantage of. So look for those scholarships once you're a freshman or a sophomore. Study abroad, look for grants. There are a lot of grants out there for study abroad. So those are the things, but I think you know, working with a professor in a lab and getting research and talking to the advisor, the professor, and, you know, do you know any schools that I can get a teaching assistant job? That really helps. You know, like I said, I've seen a lot of students do that, and that eliminates a lot of debt for them. ROTC eliminates an enormous amount of debt for them. So there are options, absolutely, definitely options there.
I'd also add there's a lot of schools that have a 4+1 grad program that built on top of the bachelor's as well. That's also a good option if you know that school is going to offer the major that you want in grad school and.
Right. Thank you. I totally forgot about that. So yes, so they're out there as well. There are some students that walk in with a lot of AP credit, and I find that that's a great opportunity for them to do a 4+1, because, you know, if they walk into if they walk into school with 12 credits already, or if they've taken a college class at Montgomery College and they've received 6 credits, that helps them eliminate some of those prerequisite classes, and then they can take that extra year that they would have been in their senior year, and they can use it and go into grad school right away. So those are other ways that can significantly lower costs. So yeah, there's definitely ways, just a matter of asking questions. Anything else, Jeremy? Did we get them?
How do you draft a strong Common App essay?
So you have to tell a story. You have to read the prompt. When I teach the class, I always tell them, this is not an analysis essay for English class. This is a short story, and you must write that short story based on the prompt you have selected. So if you fill out, you say, I want to write my, essay on XYZ, and then the essay comes out and it's nothing to do with that prompt, then that's not going to help. So the better the writing is, the better that they stay to their story. They don't wander off of that story. They really present a good essay, and there are good essays and there are bad essays. It's not an analysis. It's not a writing assignment from an English class. It is a pure short story. That's how they stand out. They spend time on it. They don't write it in a night and hand it in and say, here you go. It takes an essay, rewrite it again, look at it, draft it, send it to someone to look at it, have a teacher look at it if you want, or one of us, have somebody edit it for them, make sure that the last edit that goes through is correct. The kids we have, some kids are great writers. I mean, some essays during the class that we teach, the students write the essay, we brainstorm the essay together. They give them lots of tools to help them write that story. And then after they read that story, it goes to Jeremy, and Jeremy is a professional writer. I mean, he is excellent, and those kids walk out with a phenomenal essay. Now, do we do that for every supplemental essay? We will, if it's included in the class, but we certainly do help. But I would say if a school has 3 or 4 supplement essays, they're more important to make sure that you answer them in a very professional manner and you stick to the question that they're asking. Why do you want to go to that school? Well, you better have visited, or why you want to go, because that's what they're asking. They're not asking, well, why do you want to go to? Well, I want to go because you're Ivy League and I know I'll give a good education. Okay, great. Right. I already know that. I'm Yale. I don't need to know that. I want to know why you specifically want to come to my school. So those are things that, how do you stand out? Read, write, know your English language, and have a compelling story to tell. Spend time on it. Don't just write it and hand it in. That's how you stand out. Using action verbs. And if I could just tell the families, is this a short story? Could you put this in a catalog of short stories and it would be read? It's 650 words. Again, what can they say? Is it interesting? Does it show character? All of those things that are important to a college. Grit, same thing. How does the essay read? And again, Jeremy we both really work hard on these. Jeremy is a great editor. I tend to be how to teach them how to write it, what colleges are looking for. I'm a writer. I tell the kids in class, I am not a writer. I will help you get there. I can read it and tell you, but don't ask me to write, because there's no way. I will never, ever in all of my career have ever written an essay for a student, and I won't. I'm not a writer. So I'm an admissions counselor, and I've done it for a long time. I know what a good essay is, but I'm not writing them. So, and mom and dad, don't write them, because they can tell. I can tell you as an adult, as a parent, write very differently than what a 17-year-old is going to write. And it's very quick to read it and go, yes, I can tell this is not the student. They can also tell by looking at their grades. So this happened last year. I was like, he got C's in AP English language, and his essay was perfect. And I was like, you didn't write this, and he fessed up and said, no, my dad wrote it. I said, well, you can submit it, but I will tell you, they will know. They will know. So go ahead, but I will tell you that's the first thing they're going to notice. And it won't matter if you've got, everything going for you with everything else. If you didn't write that essay and they know it, I'll just tell you a real quick story. I've read essays, thousands of them, and one essay I read the most was at the end they kept saying they, like, or he, like he did this, or it was evident that the student didn't write it. It was a parent who wrote it. My son did this, because they don't realize it, or they don't go back and read it over or whatever. But it was really comical, and I handed it back and I said, you didn't write this, so go write it. But that, and again, AI, I've seen a lot of kids use AI, and it's very, as a college admissions officer, they're being taught what AI can do and what AI can't do, and they're being taught what to look for. So even Grammarly, I mean, some of Grammarly is rewritten for them, and they can kind of tell it's not their words. So, I just genuine, be genuine. That's the main thing. And a college is not, it's not, and I show this during my class, it's not where you go, it's what you do when you're on campus. The name of the school is, yes, it's impressive, it looks impressive, but if you go there and you don't do well, that's not going to help you. It's what you do when you get on the campus. Are you working with professors? Are you taking advantage of research opportunities? What are you doing when you get there? Are you working on a newspaper? What is it that you're doing on that campus? It's not where you go, it's what you do. And that helps you in your future. So that's the end of running my mouth for this evening. And I thank you for joining. And Jeremy, did we get anything else for
one more question, which is, what are topics to avoid on the Common App essay?
Oh, there's a lot. No guns, no violence, no drugs, no sob story about grades weren't good, no sob story about my parents getting divorced, death. There's a lot. There's a lot. Sit back and say to yourself, what would I not want to read about? Guns, never write about guns, ever. Politics. Those are all things. Those are not a short story. You can't tell a short story about drugs. Can't tell a short story about how I love guns. And well, that would be the first thing I would read, and I would say, you're done. You're not coming to my school. So I don't want guns on my campus. So remember, it's a short story. So it's not a telling. Short story is not why I got bad grades. It's a story. It's those are things to avoid. All of a sudden I have, learned that I don't care about religion. Well, you don't know who's reading that essay on the other side of the table, and religion is important to them. And, now you've got a student that says it's not. Again, it depends upon who is reading that application. And the only way to know who's reading that application is to go to the campus and say, who's the Maryland representative? Who's reading my application? I want to do some research on them. Go to LinkedIn. There's all kinds of things that you can do and find. But no, it's not a topic, it's a story. So, but as far as topics go, yes, those are ones to avoid.
Yeah, I'd also add, anytime that you can tell a positive story versus a negative one, it's much better. It just comes across much more likable. The student is much more enthusiastic with what they're writing about. A lot of times students want to try to explain something that's happened in their life in the past few years through the essay, depression, things like that. That's not really the place for it. It really just doesn't ever work out well. So, and there's also a place on the application.
Thank you, Jeremy. I was just going to say that there is a place application to put that, like I really suffered in 10th grade because of, and then go in a deeper. So absolutely, there are places to put that. But yes, Jeremy has read just as many essays as I have. Maybe not quite, because I'm older than him and I've been doing this longer, but we've read a lot. And yeah, a lot. So we can help you. Like the help, we're happy to help you. So I thank you for joining me and me tonight. Jeremy, you want to finish up? And there's our emails, and let them know,
Yep. Thanks everyone.
Anything else you need to tell them?
Okay. Well, thanks everyone for joining us tonight. We really appreciate you sticking with us for this long period of time. We covered a lot of material, but if there's anything that we missed or you have other questions that come up in the weeks ahead, please reach out to us. We'd love to talk to you about it. And we'd love to see you if you're a rising senior this summer in one of the workshops, or come work with us individually. If you have any questions, please reach out, and otherwise, have a great night.